Welcome back to the second season of our podcast, Out in the Clouds. Before we begin, we at Bluebird Wellbeing would like to express our deepest gratitude to our listeners from our first season, Beyond the Veil, and we hope you continue to join us for our second season. And to our new listeners, welcome to our second season, Out in the Clouds. This is our very first episode, and it's called Escape from Reality. Today, we're going to discuss a type of mental illness which might seem normal or regular, but it can turn into something absolutely intensive and distracting. This is called Maladaptive Daydreaming, also known as MDD. We also have a wonderful guest who will help us understand maladaptive daydreaming on a deeper level. Without further ado, let's welcome Nehir. Hello, Nehir. It is so good to have you here with us. How are you?
Hi, it's so good to be here. I'm doing well, and I'm really honored to hear and help others who are also suffering from maladaptive daydreaming.
Thank you so much for being with us today. So before we delve into our topic, I would like to first ask you some questions for a little background information.
Yeah.
Nehir is diagnosed with attention deficiency hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD, and has undergone some years of treatment through psychotherapy, and last year she also received hypnotherapy. So could you share with us about how it was like to live with ADHD, how helpful the treatment was, and just the entire journey of self-care for your mental health?
Well, I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 12 years old. Before I knew I had ADHD, I had a really challenging life, as I can say that, because some of my behaviors that are typical for me are happening of ADHD. People might confuse that with misbehaving or like being annoying or something like that. So it was really hard for people to see the real me if they're not my family or my really close friends. So people can be judgy before. But after I was diagnosed with ADHD, we know what's happening with me. I mean, what's not happening with me, it's a part of me, actually. It's part of my personality as well. The important thing is to accept yourself and love yourself the way you are. So I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 12 years old, and back then I was having seeing a psychologist who are giving me some therapies with that, and she diagnosed me as I'm having an ADHD, so she directed me to a psychotherapist for medical treatment. So I see that psychotherapist for 3 years with medical treatment. But while I was having medical treatment, I also have some other self-care routines, such as diving into hobbies. I love to act, so I went to a theater club. That helped me so much with my ADHD. Also, I was painting, doing sports, hanging out with my friends, basically normal stuff that any teenagers would do, but a little bit more with myself, because that's a way for me to express myself without losing control. And when I was, I'm guessing 14 or 15 years old, I stopped medical treatment because that was enough, and I was in control of my ADHD. I was top of my ADHD, and I'm not using any medicine right now. So sometimes it's really hard for me to focus and control it, but I'm still 100% in control, and, I love myself the way I am.
That is amazing. Thank you for sharing your story with us, Nehir. So let's dive in. From what we have researched, maladaptive daydreaming is a condition where a person spends an excessive amount of time having vivid dreams, and often claims that these fantasies are their reality. How would you define this in layman's terms so our listeners can understand?
Well, basically, maladaptive daydreaming is all about a movie in your head going on and on constantly without aware of the time or place in real life. You can just say that.
Thank you. So daydreaming is a huge part of maladaptive daydreaming, in the sense that people who are suffering from maladaptive daydreaming, they're spending a lot of their time fantasizing, or like the name suggests, daydreaming. But like everyone daydreams. I do that in my daily life. So how do I know I don't have MDD? And not just that I have MDD and not just simple daydreaming?
Well, in normal daydreaming, you are aware of time and place that you're in, and you don't lose control in real life either. Like, you are aware of what's reality or not at that time while you were daydreaming. But in maladaptive daydreaming, you lost the sense of time and place that you're in. I mean, you can just stand here and like dream, dream hours and hours without even noticing. So that's actually maladaptive daydreaming is losing control of time and place, and daydreaming is just like you're in control of that.
So is there any way that these daydreams may be like triggered by a certain noise or a topic of conversation? And if so, are there any other triggers that can, are there any other things that can trigger this mental illness?
Yes, there are some stuff that's triggering daydreaming, maladaptive daydreaming. For me, I can give examples from me. I am triggered by sounds, especially music. When I hear some sort of like songs or some kind of notes, I just start daydreaming, or shooting some clips on my head without even noticing. And that's some of the part that can be triggered, but also there can be triggered by visuals or even simple conversations. For example, people can be like having conversations, talking normally, and then you just start to rewrite the conversation in your head, just like shooting a scene or something like that. That can be triggered by anything that is related to reality and to your reality from your point of view.
So maladaptive daydreaming can cause complications to one's daily life. So like in terms of their grades or their relationships, because these people, like, I don't mean to discriminate, I'm sorry.
Can you excuse me for a second? Can you excuse me for a second?
Yeah.
The bell.
Sorry about that little break. What was I saying? Right. So people with MDD, so like since they spend a lot of their time daydreaming and things like that, they spend a majority of their time doing something else. So like this can affect probably their grades or their relationships. What are some other complications that people suffering from maladaptive daydreaming could face?
I could say that getting your heart broken. Because while you daydream, people tend to daydream. I mean, not tend to, it's the kind of the point of daydreaming, of their dreams in the future, in the moment, the things that they wish they have, the things that wish that happens in the future and wish that didn't happen in the past. So I think getting your heart broken by the face of reality. While you daydream, some of daydreams can happen in real life too, but most of the time they're not. So I think getting the fact that it's never going to happen can cause some depression in the future. I faced with depression in the past with that, so it can be dangerous. So like I said, there should be a limit for that. So that's kind of the difference between daydreaming and maladaptive daydreaming. In maladaptive daydreaming, you suffer from lack of concentration. Yes, exactly. Lack of concentration to real life, not aware of the time or space. While in your daily basic life, while you're walking, you realize that those things may never happen, or you don't pay attention to any of the things that you're doing while you're daydreaming. So like you said, it can be affect to your grades, to your social life, to your own life and your personality. So there should be a limit for that. Like these are some conditions that could happen.
Yeah, because like when you're daydreaming, you know that you're daydreaming. You know, like even when what does someone daydream about? And they go off, they think like, okay, so like uh it's very small, and it's again about, you know, it's a dream, okay? It's a
Yeah.
dream that happens that day, but there is a limit to it. So maladaptive daydreamers, they actually believe in the things that they create, because what they create with their minds are so detailed and vivid. So after a while, you know, when they do realize that like maybe it won't happen, like the long-term
Yeah.
effects that can cause, it's serious.
I mean, it's really hard for, I mean, to come back to the reality after that world in your mind. You know, you're in the world of your mind, having the best days of your lives in your mind, and then pop, the reality. That sucks. That really sucks. Yeah.
From what we know, there are no official methods for curing such a mental illness, but there are a few ways to keep it in a limit. Would you like to tell our listeners how to treat maladaptive daydreaming, like how to keep it limited so it doesn't escalate?
Well, I can say that I controlled my maladaptive daydreaming by setting time for it. Such as I only daydream when I'm listening to music and doing sports, like such as I'm going to gym and I'm listening to some music while I was doing the movements, you know, the push-ups or like the running and everything. That's the time where I daydream, only that time, and before I go to bed. While I'm at school, I tend to bore a lot due to my ADHD. So I immediately just stop the reality and go to my mind and start daydreaming. So that affected my grades a lot because I can't concentrate on the you know, lesson and everything. So I try to not daydream about that. So when I feel that I'm bored and almost losing the concentration of time, instead of daydreaming, I try to, you know, doodle something on my paper. So while I was doodling, I'm also trying to listen to the teacher. So painting, I guess, or focusing on something else immediately while you were about to daydream can help you. But I would recommend more the music thing. You know, the song thing is more effective, for me at least.
Also, here's the thing with MDD, since it isn't like categorized, I suppose, as a like a real mental illness by psychologists and stuff. So like you were diagnosed with ADHD, people with MDD cannot be diagnosed. So it's sort of like a self-diagnosis sort of thing, but
yeah.
A person who doesn't know what they're doing and the effects of this, like what they're doing can cause, it can be way more serious. That was a little confusing. Hold on. So since MDD isn't something that you can be diagnosed with, you have to actually, you know, go online and you have to do the research, and sometimes you won't even know what you were doing. You know, maybe you'll like run into it by accident one day, and up until then you'll just keep having these like vivid daydreams without knowing the actual
thinking that that's the thing everyone has.
Because okay, it's not abnormal because everyone daydreams.
But yes, exactly. But like you said, maladaptive daydreaming is a little bit more, you know, more like a time and everything. Yeah, there's like
more a fine line between those, because you know, it is daydreaming, but you know, a person who doesn't know that they're maladaptive daydreaming might not know the actual like long-term effects that what they're doing can cause on their mental health.
Exactly. Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's all makes sense.
Right. I'm a little sick, so I have to cough every once in a while.
Let's go.
We've had a lot of little disruptions.
So fun. We're living in the real life. It's not maladaptive daydreaming. It's really hard for us to, having a perfect life in reality.
In a perfect world, this episode could have been shot like we would start and then we would finish and it would have been perfect.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Right, let's continue. So, as a person with ADHD, maladaptive daydreaming can be a common sign. Studies show that like about 77% of those diagnosed with ADHD can also experience MDD. However, scientists and psychiatrists to this day are still in conflict whether to categorize MDD, as I've said, as a symptom of ADHD or its own distinct mental illness. What's your take on this?
As a person with ADHD, I would say that my maladaptive daydreaming comes from my ADHD, but I don't know if it's related exactly for my ADHD. Maybe it's something that I already had and I have ADHD in the back. But like I said before, if I lose my attention to something, I tend to daydream to escape the reality from someone else. Because, for example, I'm looking at something, I'm reading something, and I just stop reading it while I was reading it, and then realize that I am having little thoughts in my head or having a movie in my head without even noticing. So and not noticing is actually kind of related to ADHD. So I think if you are diagnosed with ADHD, there are a higher possibility that you're also suffering from maladaptive daydreaming too. But I'm not a scientist, so I can't know this 100%. I mean, you gotta ask every single ADHD person in this world, are you having maladaptive daydreamings? Are you having maladaptive daydreamings? And that's impossible. So I think maladaptive daydreaming should be more considered as a research material to the scientific world right now, because it is our nowadays problem with teenagers and like ADHD. And like, I don't know, some years before this, ADHD didn't even know there's something called ADHD either. So I think it should be something that scientists more give time to. I can say that.
It's about actually noticing this. So like, okay, ADHD is shown as an actual mental illness. Like, people have accepted this, people can be diagnosed with ADHD, but some people still don't take it seriously enough. With ADHD and with MDD, and even sometimes, that's what I think, sometimes even if MDD is labeled as a mental illness, maybe people still won't take it seriously. So it just has to be sort of shown to the world more. Like, exactly. Have MDD or people with ADHD shouldn't be afraid to come out and say, I have ADHD or I have MDD or I have,
See, the problem is that people can be very judgy with that. Mm-hmm. When you open to the world, people and say that I have ADHD, so some of my behaviors come from that. It's not that I want to do this. And when you do it the next time, they be like, oh, it's because of your ADHD. I get it, or something like that. And that's hurtful. So
they didn't take it seriously.
Yes, they didn't even care. Oh, you have it. Yes, exactly. Exactly. They'd be like, oh, you have ADHD, just start to control it. Or something like that. Have you taken your medicine today? This is really offensive, because you're telling me that I am some kind of the weirdo that has medicine all the time. No, that's not it. Or it's the same with maladaptive daydreaming. Teachers be like that sometimes. When you start to daydream, oh, you're still like thinking, you're like lost control again. Why are you doing this? Or something like that. People can be very judgy. So prevent that. I think people and the families too actually start to spread awareness of this. See, this is maladaptive daydreaming. This is ADHD, or this is another illness, or this is another like mental disease, and you guys should understand the effects and treat people the way you were treating another normal person, because we're not some weirdos. We're people, we're human. Everybody has their own thing. So yeah, the thing is, people can be judgy, and we should start to
Spreading
awareness.
awareness about
Yes, exactly.
the more people talk, people shouldn't be afraid to talk. I get that other people's attitudes may cause these people to stay silent, but they still should not be afraid to stand up and talk, because that's the only way people can understand.
Yes, I remember when I think families should be more involved in this too, because when I first diagnosed with ADHD, my parents told me not to tell anyone because it's unnecessary. But I was like, for a while, and I listened to them, but for a while I was like, why wouldn't I? It's not something to be ashamed of. It's part of me. It's something I have. I also have maladaptive daydreaming, and it's so cool. I mean, I'm fine with that. Why should I be ashamed of it? It's not something to be ashamed of. None of them should be ashamed of. Yeah.
People should be able to come out and say it, because sometimes, when you're distracted, sometimes it really isn't your fault.
Exactly. It's really, yes. I mean, if you're boring, it's not my fault. Go fix yourself. I mean, nobody's boring. I'm just like teasing, but you get the idea. People shouldn't be afraid to come out. Like, it's who you are. Just, accept it. It's fine.
Lastly, excuse me, I'm so sorry. I recently had a cold, so I keep coughing.
It's fine. Don't get busted.
Lastly, what message would you like to give our listeners who are suffering from maladaptive daydreaming, and to our listeners who aren't? How do we support someone with MDD?
If you're suffering with maladaptive daydreaming, and if you're aware of that, by the way, it's really hard for people to understand that they have maladaptive daydreaming. If you're aware of that, or you think that you started having maladaptive daydreaming, you should definitely consult a psychologist or a psychiatrist. First psychologist, and they think if you need medical treatment, they send you to psychiatrist to get help, because this is something that is serious. Actually, if you lost the control, that's the thing that separates from daydreaming and maladaptive daydreaming. And if you're not suffering with maladaptive daydreaming, and you should also, even if you don't suffer with maladaptive daydreaming, you should be aware of the effects of it from other people, to understand other people, to spread awareness, like we said before. And if you everybody daydreams, but if you are suspect that you're having maladaptive daydreaming, you shouldn't be ashamed to or scared. Actually, you don't need to scare it. There are some things to control it, like I said before. Well, to support who have maladaptive daydreaming disease, you should be more considerate and understanding to that person, because it's not something they want to do constantly. Yes, we want to dream our future, but we don't want to lose the control, because that's when it starts really serious. Just don't say that, oh, you're doing this again, or oh my God, this is why are you doing this? This is so lame. Just, have a sense of reality. This is not how real life works. Don't say those stuff. Try to understand them and be there for them. Help them to get the right treatments. They don't have the exact treatment, but there are some ways to control it. So I can just say that to summarize it, accept yourself the way you are, because everybody got their own problems, got their own world that's going on in their mind, and everybody is unique. So accept yourself, love yourself the way I love myself. Everybody loves themselves. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Nehir. It was so lovely to have you here today. And on behalf of Bluebird Wellbeing, I thank you so much. I'm very grateful for your courage to come out here and tell us your story. I wish you the very best of luck. And thank you, everyone, for listening to us. Please stick around for more upcoming episodes of Season 2. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.